Welcome to this episode of the Sweet Hometowns podcast. On this episode, we have a very special guest, Kathy LaPlante. She is the Vice President of Coordinating Programs for Main Street America, and is just a wonderful person to visit with. Can't wait to have you hear more about Main Street America from her perspective.
So we're really excited in this episode of Sweet Hometowns podcast. Mary, as she mentioned earlier, gets to talk to Kathy LaPlante, who I love Kathy. I love her personality. I love her just boldness and who she is. And the fact that when you're in a room with her, she really feels like she is the person who knows what's going on in that room.
She does. I mean, frankly, she does. She has worked with Main Street America in the Main Street world in one form or another for 30 years now. So she was a local Main Street director. She was a state coordinator. She's been with the National Main Street Center, Main Street America, for a number of years now. And she's currently the vice president of coordinating programs. And as a coordinator, we call her the coordinator's coordinator. We're very excited to have someone with her background knowledge, knowing that she's done all the things that we've had to do as coordinators over the years. So it's going to be a really great podcast. I love Kathy. She's a good friend of mine as well. And we're birthday buddies, which means both of our birthdays are on the same day. So we're always wishing each other happy birthday. She is a Green Bay Packers fan. I can forgive her that. But no, Kathy is fabulous, and we're really looking forward to this episode of the Sweet Hometowns podcast with Kathy LaPlante. Good afternoon. On today's episode of the Sweet Hometowns podcast, we have a very special guest as a part of our Women Who Lead Main Street. This is Kathy LaPlante. She has been with Main Street America, or National Main Street Center, some of us call it both, for quite a while now. And we want to really talk about what leadership looks like in what she has done from a local director to a coordinator of a statewide program, and now with Main Street America over that time, and what she's learned along the way. So, Kathy, welcome to the program. Let's let you introduce yourself.
Oh, thanks for having me, Mary. I'm Kathy LaPlante. I'm Vice President of Coordinating Programs at Main Street America. I've held that position for about 2 years, but I was also a road warrior or field services trainer across the country before that. So been at Main Street America 18 years. I used to run the New Hampshire Main Street program, and I started my Main Street career in 1989 as a local Main Street executive director in Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin.
She's been everywhere, man. She's a traveling girl. How did you originally get involved with the Main Street program? What got you in?
The very first time I heard about Main Street was when I was a department store manager in Chippewa Falls, and our Chamber of Commerce said, "Hey, we want to show you this video about Main Street." And a bunch of retailers went to that, and our jaws dropped and said, "We need that program here." But it was another 5 years before Wisconsin actually adopted the Main Street program. And in that time, I had moved to managing 3 different department stores and ended up in Iowa. And people back in Wisconsin said, "We wish you wouldn't have left." And someone found a really nice job for me working for one of the hospitals in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, to run a pharmacy gift shop in the regional mall. And that was a very short stint. That store was open less than a year and a half. And so I needed a job. And it just so happened that Chippewa Falls was just selected for the Main Street program. And I thought, I think I could do that job, maybe just for a couple years, because it entails having to work with those cranky retailers. Because I knew what that was like when I managed the department store. There were 4 of us that it was like pulling teeth trying to get people to do promotions together. And so I knew how hard that piece of it was going to be. But I thought, yeah, I could do this for 2 years. Well, here I am now. It's 36 years later. So fell in love with Main Street and haven't left.
I do think it gets into your heart and into your spirit that it is a way to change things just a little bit at a time, but you see great changes over time. I know I'm 10 years behind you, but I'm about 27 years in myself, and it's kind of crazy to still be able to go back and where I was a director for 10 years I got to be a little part of that, and I got to be a little part of that. Still feel so very proud today of what I did then and still what we're able to do now. So I get it. Main Street's infectious.
It is, and as you know, we are both representatives from our Great American Main Street Award-winning communities. And I think, what happened with both of us locally was, we carried on because of what we experienced in our hometowns and
Yeah.
that vitality and that inspiration and the excitement that comes with the little things you start to do to make your community better. And then it catches on like wildfire, and people come forward to volunteer and be your leaders, and it's a very infectious thing. And when you have the opportunity to work with so many positively minded people,
Yes.
that's a profession you don't want to leave.
And it really is, I think, a piece that gets into there's so many different ways to come to the position, I guess is what I'm saying. I know my degree is in psychology. It's not the normal route to get to what I'm doing today, but it did make a lot of sense for a lot of the times that I had to spend time talking, merchants off the cliff. And now as a coordinator, Main Street directors, let's just have a conversation. Let's talk through things. Let's make sure you're okay. So I guess that my point is there's lots of walks of life that can lead to a Main Street program, and it gets everything is appreciated there. That's the fun part for me.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Just seeing, there are people that come from Peace Corps, from teaching, from
Mhm.
marketing, from other nonprofits, from economic development organizations, communications majors. It's like Main Street is such a diversified topic, and we have to do so much work across just about everything that, any talent you can bring to Main Street is needed, right?
It is, and I think it helps fill in the gaps because it's not something that one person can do. Because both you and I have been directors in programs where we were the one employee. But what advice would you give to somebody who's considering getting involved in Main Street, whether it be a volunteer or, um, a director, somebody who's looking to be in as the director of a program? What advice would you give them?
Well, gosh, I would give them the advice to certainly get involved with Main Street. And I often tell people, some of the best volunteers we get for our programs are new people to the community, right? Who are looking to be ingrained in the community and do something good. And I say, if they don't find that at a church, Main Street is the next best option for them.
Ah,
And there's so many opportunities. You know, I always want to plug people into the events because that's what anybody sees as the fun thing with Main Street, but it's always engaging people. So I would tell anybody that is thinking about Main Street to take that step and get involved. Volunteer just for a project, and you'll get to know the people that you're working with. But I think you'll find it very rewarding. And just that talking to other people who have chosen to either invest their time and or their money in Main Street, and why they're doing it is really to make the
mhm.
quality of life better for themselves and for everybody in the community. So who doesn't want to get involved with that? And so many Main Street organizations really offer that opportunity for leadership development,
They
right?
do.
You can
Yeah.
come in as a one-time volunteer and pretty soon be the chair of the design committee, and then onto the board of directors. And that's the way it should be. We should all share that leadership role in communities. Nobody should have to be a board chair for 5 years.
Yeah.
because nobody wants to fill that person's shoes. So I encourage anybody to do it because it's so rewarding. I think you can find a lot of satisfaction and really even growth of friendships within in the
Oh,
Main Street
absolutely.
world.
I think one of the funnest things for me was when I was a director, we had a small college town, so we had a lot of students, university students who would come be part-time with us. And I had such good interaction with them that I still hear from them on my birthday and I get Christmas cards or greetings of some sort. So it's fun because it's been a while since I was the local director there. And it's just really cool to still have those connections. And some became Main Street directors, some of them didn't. But some of them moved into careers that have said, gosh, learn about this, and this while I was there was so helpful to me. So it's a wide open opportunity for people to learn as well as be involved.
I had one high school, he was a junior in high school, very bashful young man who came up to my office one time with his parents, and he wanted to show me a picture he drew of our historic post office and wanted to give it to me to,
Oh,
frame and hang on my wall. And my office was in the post office, so it was kind of neat. But just every once in a while, he would show up and stop in and say hi and just want to talk to somebody and really loved his downtown. He went on to school, got a degree in urban planning, and became a Main
huh,
Street director in another Wisconsin Main Street town.
that's
And
awesome.
I thought, well, this is wonderful. I love this. We also had a program where we worked with juvenile offenders who were assigned community service. And so those kids had to have supervision. So we often sent them out with the guy we hired to sweep our streets and hand out tourism brochures. And some of those kids were some of our best ongoing volunteers because they
Huh.
became part of something and they felt valued. That hey, there is a place for me in the community. I don't have to be a troublemaker. I can come downtown and help out with 10 different things that they need help with. And so some of the volunteers, our youth volunteers, my longest serving ones, were one of the kids who came through those programs.
That's really cool. And
Yeah.
it's just, like I said, the story of how Main Street gets into into your soul. It really does continue to carry on through. So we're getting ready to what I call new city selection season is almost upon us here in Alabama. We start new city application workshops in January. So let's talk more broadly on what advice you might give a community who is looking at becoming a designated Main Street program.
Yeah, I always challenge those communities who are just looking at it to take the time early on to raise substantial funding. You want to start your program healthy, and so I think it's always good instead of rushing in because here's the deadline for Alabama. You might want to wait
Mhm.
another year until you've raised enough money. Uh, so that when your board is ready to kick it off, when you have your staff person hired, now we have the money to implement projects versus if we only raise enough money to pay for an executive director, we're going to have a lot of fundraising to do almost instantly. And then the other piece is the outreach. Main Street is not a merchants association, and so we
Mhm.
need the schools, we need residents, we need industry, we need everybody to hear that Main Street isn't just a merchants association where only the businesses and property owners benefit. We're improving quality of life. We're creating new jobs. We're improving the taxes. We're helping collect more sales tax to support our community. And people, need to understand that Main Street is this economic development organization
Exactly.
that is bettering the community. So often we're seen as just another nonprofit, and sometimes cities have to cut back giving money to nonprofits when Main Street should be the organization you give more money to because they continue marketing the community, working
Mhm.
with small businesses, making it look great, and holding events that attract people who are going to support the businesses. So when times get tough, we don't want to take that money away from
Yeah.
Main Street. We need Main Street more than ever. So I always think early on, our communities need to focus on that organization point, which is the fundraising piece, developing your volunteer base, the partnerships, who's going to go through this with you, and then the public relations, not just promoting the events we're doing in downtown, but promoting the purpose of your organization and
Hmm.
inviting people to become part of it.
And so that people really understand. I know here in Alabama, they would apply in January, would go through having their applications reviewed, and then they would need to make a presentation to the selection committee. But we announced June 1st. We're in communities mid-June. So I like where you're going with it because there are times where we have to really a community really has to spend some time going, oh, you're here now. Yeah, that's the intent. When you apply, we're ready to go. So we want our communities ready to go. So that's really great advice.
Yeah, when I ran the New Hampshire Main Street Center, and we had minimum budgets that they all had to present with before they could even apply for our program. And communities under 5,000, we only required a part-time executive director, but we had several that just from what they learned knew that they would be better off if they had a full-time executive director.
Yeah,
And so they would take that extra year to raise the money to support that. And that makes so much sense because so many of our part-time communities, those executive directors can work full time. They're just not getting paid for it. And so we want to make sure that they're being reimbursed for the time that they're putting
of
in.
course.
So
Yeah.
again, the more money you have and being consistent with that fundraising. Every year we were out looking for new people to be engaged with our program. And we just have to make sure we're spending that time building the organization point because then that makes promotion, design, and EV so much easier.
Yeah, I always tell them that you got to have a good solid foundation, and the organization is the good solid foundation that continues. You can't build anything without that. So I spend a lot of time in that first 6 months or so on organization before we really start introducing the other pieces to make sure that that public-private partnership is there, that people have a good understanding of where you're going.
Yeah, and then, there's the leadership piece as well. And when I was a local executive director, our board chair served 1 year. We didn't want anybody even to have a 2 year because we wanted to hand it off. We wanted people to cycle through the offices. We wanted to develop that leadership. They could move off to be a committee chair, but they all learned from each other and they all were good leadership people because they always paid attention to the person who was the chair right before them. But I always like to throw in board member job descriptions. If you're going to serve on our board, you must agree to be chair or president if asked. And then that reminds them of the importance of serving on the board. It's not that,
Absolutely.
oh, I'm going to
Yeah.
sit back here and just listen. You could be called upon any time to be the next officer up, and you ought to be willing to do that. And then it really reminds them that of the importance of leadership, that you weren't asked just to serve on the board and fill a chair. We actually need everybody here to step into leadership roles.
That's excellent. I'll be always a lesson from Kathy, always. I'll be adding that to ours moving forward. So always good stuff. The last question I have for you is, what are you most proud of? And that might be really hard because you've had such a long career, but what are you most proud of in your Main Street career?
There's a couple things. And I kind of thought, well, saying that we won the Great American Main Street Award was certainly one of them because that
Oh, yeah.
culminated my 7 years as a local Main Street executive director and then got me the job as the New Hampshire Main Street coordinator.
Mm,
So that's definitely on my list, but I'm also pretty proud of being at Main Street America for the time I have been when we became a subsidiary of the
oh,
National
so many
Trust.
changes. Wow,
And
so many
we
changes.
rolled out, our staff was down to like six people, and now we're at 52. And we went through the rebrand. We created transformation strategies, and it's just like every year our research division's added, our government relations is added,
Oh, advocacy is great.
our
So,
Main Street Academy
mhm.
online, and the resource. So being part of sort of this just tremendous growth of Main Street America has been really rewarding for me as well. I haven't played a role in every single thing that we've done, but we really do operate as a team, and we use research so much, and the coordinating programs need our government relations team. And yeah, so those would be the two, the growth of Main Street America, and then individually the GAMSA Award. That was
uh,
back in 1996. So that's been quite a long time ago there
ours was
too.
in 2005, I believe.
Yeah,
So, oof, been a while. Been a
it
while.
has.
So,
It has been a
yeah.
while. It's all
Well,
good though. It's nice to, I'm happy to have had the chance to sort of reflect back on some of those things with you.
well, and for me, it's really cool to see where they went. It's like Gamza is not the end. Gamza is just barely the beginning of what you're doing, your Great American Main Street Award. Because what they're doing, where I was a director, is way beyond anything we had dreamed of. They're in their 30th year and still moving forward and doing some really great things. So it's fun to see, where do you go from, what you think is the top of the heap. There's so much more to be done. Main Street is, there's always things to get accomplished, and never dull. It's never a dull job ever.
I
So
I couldn't agree with you more. I was only in Chippewa Falls 7 years, and the next executive director was there 13 years. And I'd go back, and people will say, "Well, we miss you," and I'm like, "Why? You've done more in these 13 years, like
you're great.
that I
Yeah.
never would imagine that were projects that could
Mhm.
still be done, where the city moved the sewage lagoon, which sat right at the edge of our
Ooh,
downtown, to open that area all up for a riverfront
wow.
park. I wasn't even thinking about something like that when
No.
I was the Main Street director. But as everything improved in downtown, as more housing happened, as more new businesses came in, it really made sense. So there was a lot. It's unimaginable the things that they have continued to do. And they're a 35, almost 36-year-old program now there.
I always tell anyone who's interested in the Main Street program that Main Street is to help you manage the changes in your district over time. Because a lot of them, when the years when I was a director, had a lot of vacancies, a lot of empty buildings. And when we got to that point, it was like, okay, now we have to figure out what is the next thing. Because now we do have at least a parking perception. There's a lot more businesses, people, we do have, there's a lot more traffic, a lot going. How do we deal with the parking perception? How do we deal with the next thing? How do we deal with upper story development? So it helps you manage what's going on in the district over time, and the services that Main Street America is offering now with the small business hub as well. Such cool things, resources that I would have loved to have had those as a local director a long time ago.
Yeah.
And I'm really happy that we're having it for our communities now. So
Well, I think when you and I started, we were on that cusp of just fighting Walmart's opening around us, and starting at a point of where downtown had anywhere from 20 to 50% vacancy rate, and buildings looked terrible. And
oh yeah.
it is a management process, because it will change. We got our downtowns, I think, through some of the hardest times
Mhm.
when vacancies were extremely high. And now it's like, what's the next neat thing that we can do? Upper story housing, co-working spaces, small scale manufacturing, a lot of things that, we didn't have on the table back then, because we were really working on some of the real foundational issues in our
Well,
downtowns.
trying to recruit people to the district and finding out, oh, okay, people aren't going to be recruited to this district because we really have to work on the district. So I think that was the biggest eye opener for me is like, oh, okay. It's not just as easy as, going somewhere and getting somebody else to move in. You have to really figure out how do you work with the people who are already there, the people who own businesses, how do you provide them, training to be better, but also how do we have them understand marketing and help them open up new product lines to help them make more money. Then the other comes along the line.
Yeah. I remember when I learned Main Street, and we at the time it was called economic restructuring, and we thought, oh, that's business recruitment. So we wrote in our work plan, we wanted to recruit 2 new businesses our first year. And then we started to detail the work plan, and we went, wait a minute, we don't have any market data. We don't have our building inventory done. We have no incentives to offer anybody. We don't even know what the top 5 reasons would be for someone to come and locate a business here. And so just by doing the work plan process, we went, okay, well, we'll recruit those 2 businesses probably 2 years from now after
we have
we've
to build.
built the place up and it becomes a place that people might actually want to open a business instead of us having to beg somebody to open a business that might not be successful.
No, and then you got to have the support for them once they get there. I know we did a start your own business class that we managed, and it was the first year we had 30 plus people in, and a lot of them were existing businesses. And I remember at the time going, you're already in business, but they needed the help. There were things they'd never gotten assistance on. So it's an eye-opening piece for them. I've learned so much over the years. It's been so much fun gaining all this knowledge. So. Well, Kathy, thank you so much for your time. I know you have other things to do, and I kept you longer than I intended. But thank you so much for all you do for Alabama, of course, but for everybody that loves Kathy. She's our person that most of us have known through most of our careers, has been our constant, and we really do appreciate having her as a part of the Main Street America team.
Well, thanks for having me with you today. I really had fun.
I thought that was a great interview. It's so great to listen to Kathy talk. She gets so much information from her in such a little bit of time. She is just a great person.
Well, and she always makes you feel like you can do it. And I think that's a special skill that she has. She always makes you feel like you just, take a breath, give yourself some time, and you can push forward and do this. And she's just been such a force with Main Street all these years. We love her. We hope you enjoyed this podcast. She's great. So look forward to more guests in future episodes of the Sweet Hometowns podcast.